Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi Avirion, my name is Ahmad Mufrodi, as a FIRS author from Universitas Muhammadiyah Purwokerto. This paper title is Building Multimodal Teaching Materials AS and Alternative to Interest of Grade 4 Elementary School Students. And here is the presentation of my research. Introduction. Education is one of the efforts to humanize humans. Educators and students are an inseparable unity in learning activities. Good learning is learning that is in accordance with the demands of the times and can answer the needs of students. One indication of good learning is effective learning. By using teaching materials, learning will be more effective. In order to follow learning well, students must have an interest in learning. Interest is a tendency that is closely related to individual feelings, especially feelings of pleasure towards something that is considered valuable or in accordance with needs and can produce satisfaction and pleasure. When a person has an assessment of something useful, he will be interested and it brings satisfaction. If his satisfaction decreases, his interest will also decrease. So it can be said that someone's in. Learning is an activity that is carried out and has implications for a change. Learning can also be interpreted as a form of growth or change that occurs in a person that is shown in new ways of behaving thanks to experience and practice. A person is said to learn if a change in behavior is shown. Interest in learning is one of the psychological factors that can influence a person to learn. Learning interest is important for students because it affects student learning achievement. Interest in learning is a person's tendency to have a sense of pleasure without any coercion so that it can cause changes in knowledge, skills, and behavior. Interest in learning is a characteristic of the ability of someone who has a high desire to learn. Learning in the transition period after the COVID-19 pandemic, students' interest needs attention. This is because learning patterns have changed from distance learning to face-to-face learning. Distance learning utilizes communication technologies suitable for learning. During the pandemic, students often use devices to learn. For this reason, there needs to be innovation made by teachers in face-to-face learning, especially in preparing teaching materials. Insight, knowledge, understanding, and how the level of creativity of a teacher in managing teaching materials are influencing factors in the success of carrying out the learning process. In order for teaching materials to be more attractive, it is necessary to develop multimodal teaching materials. Multimodal is a model in learning designed with discourse in which there are verbal, visual, and motion elements so that learning becomes effective and interesting for students and is able to answer the challenges of the digital era like now, where all use technology including learning. The use of multimodal teaching materials will increase the interesting learning experience to students and make learning not boring so that interest in learning does not decrease. The problem studied in this study is the extent to which the development of multimodal teaching materials can increase students' interest in learning. Through the development of multimodal teaching materials, students have an interest in teaching because teaching materials can display visual, audio, and audiovisual method. This research uses a descriptive qualitative approach, with the discourse analysis method. Discourse analysis is a study that examines language that is used naturally, both in written and oral form, for users as an element of society. This method is used to examine that building multimodal teaching materials is an alternative to increasing the interest in learning of grade 4 elementary school students. Analysis of results and discussion. Multimodal teaching materials are teaching materials that combine visual, audio, and audiovisual elements. Teaching materials can also be equipped with links that allow students to improve their collaborative, communicating, critical thinking, and creative skills. Multimodal teaching materials can also be accessed online. This allows learners to learn anywhere and anytime according to their wishes. The learning process does not have to be in the classroom and can be carried out outside of learning hours. Students' interest in learning also shows an increase through WordWall online game media. The game can be linked to multimodal teaching materials published in digital form. Interest in learning affects the learning achievement of students. The better the interest of students, the better the learning outcomes. Aprigel et al., 2020, stated that there is an influence between learning interest and student learning outcomes. This is evidenced by research data that shows a significant and positive influence between learning interest and student learning outcomes. Interactive multimedia in the form of videos can also be used to increase students' interest in learning. Based on research conducted Wulan et al., 2021, the use of video-based interactive multimedia can increase students' interest in learning. Conclusion: learning during the transition period of the COVID-19 pandemic requires more attention. This can be supported by the use of multimodal teaching materials in learning. The use of teaching materials is considered important because of the adaptation of students from distance learning patterns back to face-to-face learning. The interest in learning of learners needs to be increased. Based on the background of the problem and the results of the literature research presented, it can be concluded that through building multimodal teaching materials, the learning interest of grade 4 elementary school students can be increased. That's all my presentation. Thank you very much for your great attention. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.